Version 42 brings us a ton of new cards, but they also bring us something different. Gems. Now, while you can only equip 3 cards at a time, yeah, you can have 12 in your deck and flip and swap them out. Gems, you can't swap them out in the game. You set your gems in for the deck and you unlock them, and that is that. So gems are a bit more solid of a choice than cards are in a way. You really got to know what gems you want, what gems you need, what gems you get. So here are some absolutely key gems you have to know about. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a version 42 guide. I am Sylphin. Now, in general, I will just say this right off the bat, there aren't as many gems as there are cards, and gems have kind of a more gameplay change for your hero, and then cards kind of just like have ridiculous effects on your hero. So gems are kind of slightly different in general. And because there aren't as many of them, you got to know pretty much all of your gems in general. Get to know all of them, but here are really key ones you absolutely have to know about. Onslaught is an interesting choice for some heroes like Greystone and Aurora, where you can really get those key cooldowns down and always basic attacking, but I thought I would maybe just mention that before getting to the really good ones. Now, auto mana potion versus sustain in the early game here is important. We're talking about slot 1 cards, so right at the beginning of the game you can boom slot 1, spend that 1,000 gold on 1 attribute and get a gem right off the bat. So this auto mana potion is for mana sustain in the early game, but it honestly doesn't give you much mana at all. Has a 60-second cooldown, so if you are below 40% mana every minute, you can use this, whereas before mana potions, you had to go back to base to recharge them. Now, auto mana potion, that is an option for some sustain, but you also have an option for healing towers to get mana and health back, as there's a health potion later on. Healing towers gain 1.4 health regen and 1 mana regen while inside structures. That can either be the enemy structure or your structure. So obviously in the off lane, when you're basically spending your entire time under structure, this is amazing. In the mid lane, if you can get some good use out of this if you are playing defensively. If you're just kind of gonna freeze your lane where it is and stay under your tower, it is something you got to know about. Either you get healing towers instead of an auto mana potion and an auto health potion we'll get to later. It's something you got to kind of, what am I going to do? Am I going to freeze my lane because I'm a mid laner that has no escape? Or if I'm in the off lane, really healing towers, absolutely crucial. Absolutely crucial for the off lane. Now, there are jungle options. Jungle lifesteal. Basic attacks restore 2.5 health against jungle minions due to the reduced damage that minions take. At least it certainly feels like it, and the increased attack speed. This really provides incredible sustain. So in the jungle, if you're like, do I need that sustain or not, jungle lifesteal here in this tier, in the slot 1 vitality gem, is absolutely something you have to know about. Quick exit, I'm not going to really find that too useful. I don't really recommend it, but let me know down in the comments if you think that there is a good use case for it. Jungle Assassin is the Scythe version of the Scythe cards we had before version 42. So if you have the sustain already on your hero, or maybe in a card, you can get Jungle Assassin as a first slot 1 agility attribute point. A Jungle Assassin, basic attacks deal 4.3 bonus damage, so this can be the clear that you need, because remember there is increased attack speed. This is the jungle clear you need for certain heroes. So Jungle Assassin, the jungle lifesteal is something you really have to know about, as those are your jungle options. Depending on the cards you have for your jungler, or just the hero itself that you're playing in the jungle, depending on it, you can get either of those. Now, here's an auto health potion, just like the mana potion before. This has a slightly lower cooldown for some reason. That may change, may be a bug, as you gain 4.9 health regen for 9.2 when you fall below 50% maximum health. So, I'm not too sold on the on the auto potions, just because they don't really seem to do very much, in my opinion. Now, there is something for the carries, and that's improved killing blows. Gain 3.1 bonus gold when killing an enemy minion. As you know what? Hey, that's what those carries are about, getting those economies. So these slot 1 gems you really got to know about. Improved killing blows for your carry, or an auto health potion if you need that sustain, as you're probably not spending a lot of time under towers. The jungle, as a jungler, you have to know about the jungle assassin and jungle lifesteal. And as an offlaner, the healing towers or the auto potions. Now remember, you can just stay out on the battlefield, and as you get that gold, unlock those gems, you don't have to go back to base. Now we move on to slot 7 gems. These you can kind of delve into if you are, you know, not necessarily all about one attribute. You can kind of dive into this to unlock the slot 7 if you so desire. The first one that you really should know about is Deadly Mana. Killing an enemy minion increases maximum mana by 1.2. Scales for forever, depending on how many minions you can farm. So absolutely, if you are all about mana as a caster or anybody else, this is something you have to know about. The next gem here is damage reduction. Reduce basic damage taken by 6.1%. As a frontline brawler, bruiser, this is something you really got to know about, especially if you are designed to take down that enemy carry or basic damage assassin. You can really just reduce the damage that they take, and something you got to know about for your tankier decks. Now, all 3 of these agility gems are actually pretty badass. Deal an additional 2.1% basic damage to heroes for every 10% of enemy heroes missing health on the Ruthless gem. Now, as a carry, obviously, every time you hit them, you're just going to be increasing the damage of your next attack. That actually synergizes quite well, just so you can secure kills. As a Kalari, to make sure that, boom, that first attack's going to do a lot of damage, or you're ganking somebody that has low health to begin with. This only amplifies that damage that they take. Now, fast travel is another really good one as well. Gain 24.6 move speed while out of combat. So as a jungler, as anybody that's rotating across the map, you can gain that 24.6 move speed, or just if you're trying to escape, that can really help. Now, the next one here, obviously synergizing very well with carries, or if you just want to, you know, scale into the late game, well, earn 3.1% increased gold. Obviously, that is tremendous and can help with the slot 1 that increased your gold from there. So there you go. Really 3 good agility gems that you gotta know about. Now, as we go higher in the slots, they start to just become better and better. It's kind of hard not to recommend a lot of these. Spellburn basically is just tainted magic. Abilities deal bonus damage equal to 2.1% of enemies' current health over 3 seconds. Obviously, on an against Scorch, this is fantastic. Shinbi, any damage dealer, really. Spellburn, fantastic. Healing spells heal for 3.1% of ability damage dealt, and there is the spell steal. So Shinbi, this works really well for. Shinbi's looking really good here in version 42, just by the way. And you know what? It's something you gotta consider if you want a little bit of sustain as a caster. Healing spells is it, and because it's not reduced from minions or from heroes, it's straight up 3% ability damage. Now, another good one is Mana Fountain, and this is basically Infinity Stream. Regen up to 10 mana per second. 10 mana per second, not 3.2 per second, based on your missing mana. So the more you're missing, the more, up to a maximum of 10 mana per second you can get. Something you got to know about. Now, as for vitality, there's only two really that I would recommend. Damage return is, well, you return damage. 10.5% of basic damage taken is returned to the enemy hero. Now, obviously, this helps on any tankier heroes because you're going into vitality to jump in on the enemy carry or basic damage assassin and just, hey, there's 10.5% damage thrown back right at you. So damage return, definitely something you got to think about on your brawler bruiser heroes. The next one I recommend is shredding strikes. It doesn't necessarily, well, it certainly does help you as it does remove 1.2 basic armor from the target for 3.7 seconds and stacks up to 8 times. But it's a shred, so it helps your entire team. So it's definitely going to help you, but as a brawler bruiser, it's a bit of a utility option as a slot 13 utility vitality gem. Now, slot 13 is a huge moment for agility, as you can get multi-shot. Ranged basic attacks fire 2 additional projectiles, each dealing 80% basic damage. Are you kidding me? Your main attack is going to deal 100%, and then two side shots are going to deal 80% basic damage. Unfreaking believable. So if you're a ranged carry, there you go. There is your multi-shot. If you're a melee carry or a ranged and maybe you don't want that, here is a lifesteal. 6.1% lifesteal on this gem does give you a little bit of sustain, as you know what, your damage is pretty nuts, and you can just get that, stay on the battlefield, maybe win that 1v1. So lifesteal or multi-shot, really hard. Obviously melee carries, well, gotta kind of go for lifesteal, as multi-shot doesn't do a damn thing for them, but as a ranged carry, still lifesteal is pretty powerful. Now, once again, I'm gonna say, as we get higher in these slots, the gems become more and more powerful. For the knowledge, there's really two only that I would recommend. Spell Shield just blocks the next enemy ability. Unfortunately, doesn't say what the cooldown is, but I highly doubt it's not every other spell is blocked. I certainly don't think it's that. Unfortunately, I don't know the cooldown, but there is basically your Spell Shield, so you can block enemy spells as a knowledge support or knowledge tank even. You can definitely use this to great effect. The next one I would recommend is reactive spells. Reduce cooldowns by 6.1% when receiving ability damage. Every single time you take ability damage, you're reducing those spells. Now that is pretty powerful. I'm thinking on a Muriel with those shields you can use, that you can use faster. That is phenomenal. Or any sort, any hero that you can take some damage, that's going to be really valuable. Now, the vitality slot 19 gems aren't actually they're kind of meh in my opinion. Ferocity, gain up to 44.1% attack speed based on your missing health. If you are more of a, not necessarily a tank, but a brawler that can still deal some damage, is a consideration, and Consume the Dead is just simply sustain. After killing an enemy unit, you are healed for 15.8% of the enemy's maximum health over 3.2 seconds. So Consume the Dead, if you want a little bit more sustain as you're killing enemy heroes or just minions or anything really, it is a consideration. Now, Reflexive Purify is iffy as well, because you can purify yourself every time you take 501.1 damage. That's a lot of damage, so I'm not sure, if that's going to be worth it. I mean, you're only going to be able to use it a couple times by the time you're just dead, depending on your health, I suppose. So it's really up to you. This slot for me doesn't feel too good for the vitality attribute, but let me know down in the comments if there's anything I'm kind of missing with this slot. As for agility here in slot 19, the main one I recommend here is piercing basic. Basic attacks ignore 18.4% of enemies' basic armor. Now that because there is a lot more basic armor because of the agility attribute and just on cards, this is going to be really good. And it's a flat 18.4%, so it's very valuable. The next one I would recommend here out of the three is Duelist. Take 21% less damage from any hero you hit with a basic attack for the next 3.2 seconds. So this helps with those heroes that are gonna dive you and just really focus you down so that you can just kind of duel them and take that less damage. But with the fact that piercing basic is just so good, 18.4% is just ignored, it's gonna be tough as to which one you think you will need. Now here at slot 25, you kind of gotta know them all. They're just all really quite good. Empowered attacks here on a Shinbi, on a Crunch is really terrifying. After casting an ability, the next basic attack within 3 seconds deals 150 bonus ability damage. Obviously, that is absolutely tremendous and is something you gotta know about. But for a lot of other casters, overpowered spells is hands down the one you're gonna want to go for, because abilities deal 20% bonus damage but cost an additional 30% mana. So there's the trade-off. 30% more mana, but they deal 20% more bonus damage. Insane. As for knowledge supports, here's the one for you. Amplify Aura. Nearby enemy units take 11% increased ability damage. Probably not going to want to go for empowered attacks. Well, you're just not kind of meant for that damage. And overpowered spells, again, a lot of these spells just don't do damage. So Amplify Aura it is. Just going to help your team totally do some increased damage against the enemy team. Now here, Vitality is again kind of meh. The biggest one here is Armor Aura. Nearby enemy units have basic armor reduced by 12, and nearby allies have basic armor increased by 12. So as a, well, Vitality, as a tank, as a frontline brawler bruiser, that's going to really help your team. You also have improved health regen. Heal for 0.2% max health per second, which if you have 3,000 health, that's 6 health regen. But outside of combat, you can gain up to 1.2%, which that's a substantial amount. That's 36 health regen if you have 42 actually if you have 3,000 health. So that is good. But the other one here is Avenging Spells. When hit by an enemy basic attack, which at this point, slot 25, enemy basic attacks are going to be really quick. Your cooldowns are reduced by 0.2 seconds. So on a Crunch, that would be crazy. On a Sephiroth, that's scary. You know, on some heroes, that may or may not work, but you know what? My gut is really telling me go for Armor Aura. Now, again, because agility is just so insane, you kind of gotta know about all three of them. Bounty Stalker here, basic attacks grant 1.2 attack speed and 0.9 power for 3.7 seconds, but it stacks up to 10 times. So that's 12 attack speed and 9 power potential. Now remember, yeah, those numbers don't sound very much, but remember in version 42, that actually ends up being quite a lot. So that is a substantial amount. It's the one I would probably take the least because we have critical hits. Basic attacks have a 9.2% chance to deal 46% basic damage. Yeah, that's substantial. That's probably the one you want to go with the most, to be honest with you. But there is also this for melee carries. Basic attacks no longer apply a combat penalty. Are you insane? That means you can just be at basic attacking and following somebody around, and you can just absolutely insane. Obviously it works for range carries too, but melee carries, because they deal a bit more damage than range carries, that is absolutely terrifying. So all three of them you got to know about. Critical hits, probably the one I would take, but Relentless Pursuit, if you can get away with it, oh my goodness, that's insane. So there you guys go. Those are the gems you kind of need to know about. A lot of them, I think, are honestly slot 1 Just because that early game is really, really important. Getting those cards for the early game. Are you going to get cards that that directly help your scenario in the early game, or are you going to get economy cards that kind of scale in the late game and rely on those slot 1 gems? In the slot 25, yeah, you got to kind of pay attention to what some of them do, and maybe some cards that you have, like especially slot 13 here for the healing spells and for the lifesteal. You kind of have to be like, you know, do you get the lifesteal gem or the lifesteal card, etc., etc. So there are definitely some considerations you need to make between your gems and your cards. Like I said at the beginning of the video, probably really need to know your gems, arguably maybe more so than your cards. The gems, there's not that many of them, but because they're more solidified, you gotta know them. So there you guys go. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything I missed, if there's any synergies that I just completely forgot about. Let everybody know down in the comments, as we all can certainly learn from you. Please like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share it with the community, and of course guys, subscribe. You guys like this content, especially if you found it useful. Please subscribe so I can do it for you in the future. If you would like to support me on a regular basis, please head on over to my Patreon account where you can make a pledge to help me do what I love. Till next time, like always guys, stay optimistic and positive.